I'd like to welcome you to On Holiday. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself and let us know a little bit more about you.
Thank you so much for having me. I am Samantha Boersma. I live on land that I call Fairy Mountain, but it's
Ah,
in Western North Carolina.
amazing.
And it got that name because it's built atop all this quartz crystal and it's just so abundant with butterflies and flowers and herbs. And when I moved here, that just felt so right.
Wow.
And I introduced the land because it feels like an important part of my work, which is with the flowers and the plants and creating flower essences and other herbal concoctions. I make pelvic steam blends as well, and that repertoire is kind of expanding. But I really work with the plants on an energetic and a spirit level first. And so that's kind of how I get the information for the blends and the work that I do one on one, which is an offering that I call flower readings, where I connect with someone's energy, see what flowers want to come through to help them heal and balance in the moment. And then I share a little bit about them with the person, and we go through kind of like a healing ceremony. And it just lights me up so much. It lights me up so much. And I absolutely love this work.
Well, I am just so thrilled that you're here, first of all. And second of all, it was just such a joy to come across your work. I was introduced to you through Saga. And Saga is just an amazing. She was on this new little chapter of On Holiday in our last conversation. And um, she's just like a wonderful being, and I just feel like she connects so many different people to different brands and experiences. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for her. So shout out to Saga. Um, but she was actually taking your Divine Mirror blend, and as soon as I saw it, it was like the vibration came through the screen, and I'm like, I have to take this. And I think that, for people who aren't familiar with flower essences, we'll get into it, but the medicine of flower essences really spoke to me. And it feels like it really resonates with just my makeup. And I think a lot of our makeups in this really sensitive place that we're in the world. Um, and anyways, I took the Divine Mirror and absolutely loved it. And then I did a one-on-one with you, which I also was thrilled to do and totally enjoyed. And I'm making my way through that blend now. Um, and so, yeah, I would love to hear more about, flower essences in general. I love the fact that you're on this fairy mountain and this land. I'm also a fairy lover myself, and that's like a whole conversation for another day. But I feel like I kind of detached myself from that identity. Um, like definitely around like the female, experience in the modern world, and just like feeling like it was too, woo woo and out there. And so I like really kind of shut that part of me down. But now I'm kind of returning to that and love it. So I just love how much you embrace that. And yeah, I want to hear more about just flower essences and how you came to the work, how it found you, and so on.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And I will just say that I just had a class called Fairy Circle, in which we kind of looked at the ways in which fairies, amongst many other archetypes, were first cast as evil and then cast as something childish or, lesser than, and the
Mm.
ways in which that trajectory aligns with our trajectory as women and how have been seen in the world,
Oh my God.
like reclaiming that relationship. And so I just wanted to share that because it feels so relevant to what you were saying.
I think we're gonna have to have another conversation all about that, because I feel like that's like ripe for deconstructing, and you're clearly doing that work already.
Okay, sorry, I got distracted by the fairies. We tend to
Me
do
too.
that. But how I came to this work, it's been a journey. I'll say that this feels relevant to me. My name, Samantha, means listener, and my last name, Boersma, means farmer.
Hmm.
which I think is really fun because I came to this work of listening to the plants. And I say that to say that it kind of feels like it's always been within me. I actually originally studied fashion in school and really
Okay.
was just so enamored by expression and the ability to express freely. And I think that was really, I was seeking I was seeking a way to break out of the boxes that I felt like I was being contained in by the world and by society. Um, but after studying fashion, I went into it thinking it was all art and I was so drawn to that. And then going to
Mhm.
school, I was like, this is like all business. This feels kind of small.
Hmm.
I I want more. And so I was kind of simultaneously going through a really deep healing process myself. I had a lot of physical ailments and, just really struggled being in a body my whole life, to be honest with you.
I hear this.
And so it was partially inspired by my journey towards healing because I was so fed up with the healthcare system and not feeling heard and not getting answers that I really took matters into my own hands and was like, I refuse to accept that you're telling me I have to take medicine for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
And so that started me on this journey towards healing. And it started with physical healing, but along the way, I was reminded of the intuitive gifts that I've always had, and so much of my spirituality that I had shut down because it felt so dogmatic was reawoken in a new way. And I studied divine feminine Ayurveda, Tantra, and yoga,
Wow.
and really opened up to the ways in which living a softer, more compassionate, more I guess accepting life and having that relationship, especially to ourselves, is absolutely game changing. And
Absolutely.
and that path really took me deeper into the subtle realms because so much of that divine feminine work can be in the subtle realms and the things also that we feel in our body. But um when when exploring those subtle realms, I was like, oh, okay, everything is starting to make sense now. Like, this is this is the language I've been speaking my whole life and no one
Right.
has been understanding me. And wow, that's been frustrating, but I'm like home now.
That's so beautiful. I love that.
um I quote this all the time, but particularly reading the book Women Who Run with the Wolves. I don't know if you've ever read it.
Yes. And I listened, I actually, so for years it sat on my shelf and, or actually, no, I won't even say it sat on my shelf. It sat on my shelf in my head for years. And I was like, I have to read this book. I have to read it. And my best friend was walking in Brooklyn and it was on like a front stoop. And he was like, do you want me to send this to you? And I'm like, yes. And it was during the pandemic. He sent it to me. And I
Mm.
never physically read it like paper, like front to back. But then I was called to listen to it as an audiobook. And I fell asleep to listening to it for months. And it was just like, it's the most powerful. I still need to like, I want to sit with it physically and read it. I just think it's one of those books that's like kind of a Bible to life as a woman. But it's incredible. It has so much energy vibrating off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I love your story because it's absolutely a book that when it's time to read it, or like
Yes.
it will make itself known and you have no other choice.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly true.
Like I've sent it to so many people and they've been like, I just can't get into it. I'm like, oh, it's okay. Your time will
Not your
come.
time. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and you'll be sucked into the portal and everything will be fine.
Yes. Yes.
But the reason why I bring it up is because reading that book really opened my eyes to the ways in which our school system and our society really like puts us in these really structured boxes for how to
Mhm.
exist in the world. And the reason why that book did that for me is because I think Clarissa Pinkola Estes writes in such a free flowing, like feminine way that has no rules. Her
Mm,
sentences just go on and on and on. And you're like, but I get it. Um, and even just the fact that she uses story and archetypes feels so feminine to me. But that really made me realize like a lot of the boxes that I felt like I was contained in, um, and the ways in which I shut down those parts of myself,
right.
and how much I really desired to liberate from myself and return home to what was always true for me.
Mm,
So that is like kind of the spiral path into the flowers. I would say things really started to get a lot louder when I moved onto this land, but the flowers have always been my inspiration. The reason why I started this long, winding journey story with the fashion thing is because they always showed up in my inspiration and what I would
mm.
create, what I was drawn to. And they really got a lot louder when I moved onto this land. And all of a sudden, I just started knowing things that I had no business knowing,
Wow.
which has been how I've experienced my intuition my whole life. But
Mhm.
um, that's a weird one to experience. And like, I do remember times in school being like, I'm not sure how I know this thing. Like it just dropped in. But
I just got chills
I guess
because it's
everyone has that.
and I think it's like this might not resonate with everyone, but I think it's like an old soul thing too, which like I have the feeling this is going to be like really out there, but like I have the feeling that a lot of us right now who are incarnated on earth are old souls. Um I really, really believe that. And I think we've come here for a very specific reason of transitioning us into this like new way of living, like this new era of life on the planet as humans. And yeah, and as beings. And it's just like really, really fascinating because I feel the exact same way. That chill was like, yes, when I was younger, I felt like I just knew things that I probably shouldn't even have known at those ages, right? Um, yeah, it's fascinating, but I definitely resonate with that. And I think a lot of people will resonate with that.
I bet you that is so true. And I think it was either my AOL screen name and I'm bringing this up because you did your stories not that long.
Yes. Bless
It was
you.
either it was either my AOL screen name or my Instagram name, but it was like an old soul with a zero.
I'm obsessed with that. I love that. Mine was pixie dust, which I'm sure you saw.
Oh my
Which is proof of my obsession with, the fairies. That is so amazing. I love that. You need to bring that screen name back somehow. Resurrect it.
resurrected on the Instagram, maybe.
Yes, yes, a burner account, if you will.
Yeah, that would be so funny. I think that's kind of my journey. I forget what the other question was now at this point. I really went on my own
Well,
spiral.
no, I love that. And I think that that's like, it's indicative of like living in a feminine way, which I think a lot of us are returning to and recalling. I'm definitely in that journey. I think I'm kind of in like my shadow period right now where I'm like rebuilding who I want to be in the world, and how I want to show up. And I think that I'm seeing I almost feel like it's interesting. These conversations are kind of coming organically where I'm bringing in people that I just feel called to speak to, but it almost feels like it's like a path back to this remembering. Like everyone I'm speaking to is kind of like giving me little fragments of that. And like remembering for all of us because I think we're really in this period where it's like coming back into this feminine softness, and that goes for men and for women, but it's this way of living that's not so structured, not so 9 to 5, not so enveloped in this way of how we should do things, but more how we feel how we should do the things for ourselves. So yeah, no, I love hearing more about your story, and I think it's a really beautiful thing to hear, and to encourage others to live that way, and to reconnect with what feels right to them. But the second question was regarding flower essences as a craft, for people who might not be familiar with them. What what can they expect? What exactly is it? How does it differ, I guess, from, herbal tinctures? Because I think a lot of times people confuse the two. So, if you could kind of explain that and speak to the science of flower essences a little bit, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. So, flower essences are a vibrational medicine. And the way that they're created is just simply by putting a flower in water in sunlight.
Mm.
And there now is scientific evidence that water memorizes vibration. Um, and there's many awesome researchers doing work with this. Shout out Veda Austin. She does some really, really cool stuff.
We'll have to link that into the newsletter.
It's incredible. You can go down a total rabbit hole. And so the water memorizes the vibration of the flower and then it's preserved. And so we're working with the flower, the most etheric, the most expressive part of the plant. It's like the part of the plant that we have the roots, that could help us with our physical body. We have the stem, but the flower is like the expression, right? It's much subtler. And so that can help us with our subtle bodies. And so it can help us transform emotional or spiritual patterns that are existing within us by like matching that vibration and allowing us to slowly shift our own vibration over time
Mm,
by taking this really subtle medicine.
right.
And it's an interesting thing to try and like conceptualize with the mind because similar to like homeopathy, the more diluted it is, actually the more powerful it is.
Fascinating. I didn't know that.
Which is it's so strange. And so you make like this mother essence and then you dilute it further and further for each essence that's actually being consumed.
Huh.
Um, and you take a small amount. Um, I honestly recommend like 3 to 5 drops a day. Some people do more, and you can use your intuition on that. But because this subtle shift can add up in a really big way, you kind of want to like our tendency in this culture is to go hard and fast and really want to see results right away, right?
Right.
And so we want
Right.
to pour the whole bottle in and be like, let's go. Um, but actually, like taking it slow and allowing those changes to add up is really a lot more helpful way to engage with flower essences because they can create some like really powerful shifts. I remember the first time that I was kind of having that mindset of going hard and fast with flower essences. And it
Mm,
was really overwhelming because this is like working with really deep, patterns within us. And
right.
so it's really best to go slowly and to integrate the medicine in that way. And so the idea is that each flower has its own unique vibration, its own medicine that it can share with us, just like people, we all have our own stories and our own thing that we can share with the world, our own way of impacting people when we're in conversation with them. And they're really such like expansive, multidimensional beings. Um, what's so cool about it is I could interact with a flower, say chicory, and receive one information, and you could interact with it and receive a very different information. But
Right.
just like people, like it's like me being a conversation with you versus being in a conversation with my mom. I might
Right.
show up a little bit differently based on how I'm responding to the person and what I feel like is needed. And so that's what's so fun for me about like looking into people's energy and seeing what's needed for them because my logical mind might come up with a plan based
Right.
on what I've experienced with the flower, but if I just let their energy tell me, then it's going to meet them wherever they are in the moment, which I just think is so fun and cool.
I love that. Yeah. And I definitely resonate with the kind of like the layers of the flower essence work. And I think that that's like such a cool part of it is like each time you take it, it might hit you a little bit differently too, because you're at this different stage. It's speaking to you in a different way. I love the subtlety of it. I think it's so amazing. And at the same time, it's so deeply powerful. It's like this really cool balance that I've come to just absolutely adore. Uh, and yeah, it was the coolest experience too, working with you one on one to come up with the blend that I'm taking now, because I remember we kind of went into it and I was like, I need something to help with this, this, and this. And then we sat and meditated, and it was like a totally different vibe. Like, the flowers were like, you just have to have fun, girl. Like, you just have to get out and like start frolicking. And I was like, what? Like, I need to be productive. So it was really, it's such a cool experience. And I always love learning from them and, picking up on what they want to teach us.
Yeah, it's so fun, and I would say just like fairies, like, I don't know if, like, you've experimented with interacting with fairies in your adult life since maybe you've had that, banishing kind of moment with them, but
Yeah.
I highly recommend it, and they're very loud and a little bit demanding, which I love so much, and I think, with flowers too, like they can be very chatty and like show up in different ways. And um I just, yeah, I feel like I need to accent even more like the multidimensionality. Like they are just such little powerhouses, and they're like so often misportrayed as just sweet, gentle, like whatever, pleasant. But there's this real like depth there. There's this real underlying power, this relentlessness, this courage, this ability to transform absolutely anything that is so incredible.
That's so cool. And all I want to do right now is just like visit you in North Carolina and go walk around and listen to the fairy and flower energy.
Come on over. You're
Yes.
so welcome.
Maybe that will be an on holiday field trip at some point. We'll all come
Oh my
and do some
gosh.
sort of dinner in the fields.
Oh my gosh. Like in the garden filming, how fun would that be?
I would literally die. I'm like not even kidding. I'm packing my bags.
You are so welcome anytime.
Yes. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the energy right now. And so the reason why we're even, just obviously I just want to talk to you, but I also think it's really important with this transitional period of the winter into the spring. And we're in an eclipse season where we just passed the full moon. My whole cycle and like energy was completely um shifted and tossed about in this last week. It's been a ride, and I think it has been for a lot of us. um and so yeah, I don't know, what is like what should come through from this, if it's that we want to just talk about the energy, or if we want to like try to channel a blend that would be good for this time. I've kind of gone back and forth, so I wanted to sort of like leave it to be up in the moment of what we feel and what we think feels right.
Let's talk about the energy a little bit and see if the flowers come through for us.
That sounds amazing.
I'd love to hear what you're feeling right now, and then I'm happy to share what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything feels very amplified right now. It feels almost like things are revving up, and it's like this like preparation energy of like things are going to get crazy, so you better get ready. You better prepare yourself. And at the same time, there's like this really edible and really intense stillness that almost feels deafening and, you know, oppressive in a way. Like up here, I'm in Northeast Pennsylvania, and it's really overcast and there hasn't been sun, and I just feel like I want to drink up like a tropical beach somewhere, and like get in the sun. So there's kind of like a little bit of the seasonal depression, frustration at this point. I wouldn't even call it depression, I call it anger at this point of the season. Um, but that plus the eclipse energy just feels really, really, it's like heavy, and also there's like an urgency behind it at the same time, and an excitement. Like summer's almost here and there's going to be some really amazing things coming through, but you have to like prepare yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I for me, it's like anticipatory and also like having to finally integrate some of the shadows that I was not ready to look at for such a long time.
Big time.
And really having, and there's a lot with the ego, I feel like happening, really having to let go of any idea that like I don't even know, like that it's about me at all, you know, like it's not
I no,
real.
you're
God.
totally right. Like there's like this huge, like for sure the shadow energy feels super intense, and also the ego. I think that that's almost a larger theme too, that I'm picking up on, that feels kind of like this. It's indicative of like the Piscean shift to like the Aquarian shift, because like the Pisces era was all about like, this like leadership and the icons and like individuals and people, and Aquarius is like community and gathering and spirit, and how can we help others. And so I do think that there's kind of this like this shedding process that's happening. So like I'm feeling that too, big time.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of shedding.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable.
It is, but also there's like the anticipation of like the lightness that's to follow. Like that feels really palpable and really, it feels like really tangible and close to me, where I'm like, it's almost here. Like I'm almost able to just like frolic and like put my feet in the dirt and just, feel the lightness on my skin. But at the same time, there's like the layers have to come off first, like there's work to be done.
Yeah. The mushrooms are coming through for me
Mm,
right now. I feel like it's reishi and bloodroot coming through for
mm.
um with a bunch of wood sorrel. And it feels
Wow.
like um the reishi feels very connected to an ancient remembering that I feel like is needed right now. And that it feels like we're gonna need even more. Um, and maybe we don't even realize that yet, but
Yeah.
it feels really important to move into our intuition even deeper than we have maybe in the past. And the bloodroot feels like, again, kind of a remembering of our roots, and then also a grounding, and then also a patience to be able to see things through. Because it
Mm.
feels like when these things are initiated, it's going to be like really buzzy and exciting. And then we have to remember that it's a long game.
Yes.
And then Wood Sorrel, who is actually in the Divine Mirror blend, but is one of my favorite flowers and such a reminder of our light. Such they're little tiny flowers and they grow all over the ground in the grass, and but when you hold them and you're like their energy is so big and so vibrant.
Wow.
And I really think they're incredible at reminding us of our light and helping us let go of what's not us.
Mm. I love that. This feels so, I don't know, like it feels really powerful and really, I was just like getting like a feeling of vibration through my whole body as you were talking about these three elements. I definitely resonate with the ancestral remembrance and the grounding, because yeah, like I feel like this year is just a really fast-paced year, but it's also a year where it's like a preparation. And it's like those two forces, like the yin and the yang of this year, are really prominent. And it's like they need to be integrated. And we need to like remember that we sit at the center of that. And, how are we kind of like balancing the scale throughout this time?
It's so funny that you say that because I was just thinking about how it's a justice year in the tarot as you were saying that.
What? I didn't even know that. That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I was just like envisioning the Libra, like the scale. Um, yeah,
It's
that's
justice
wild.
year.
Makes a lot of sense. It's a wild year, but we are chugging through.
What's so cool is all three are so connected to the earth and like stay
Yes.
down low, but also it's almost like your ear to the earth. I don't know why that's coming up, but Keep your ear to the earth, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like tapping into your roots so that you can then like rise up from the roots, you know, and like the mushroom energy is so that like there's this massive, you know, communication network underneath the earth. And like that's kind of where all the life really is. But what you see is this like small spore that comes out. And I feel like that's kind of where we are at as people is like we're connecting in this like really subconscious way. And we're learning how to do that because that communication doesn't fully it's not fully there yet, but we're like stepping into that and from that kind of like popping back up and being like, okay, we're here in this new iteration.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the mycelial networks underground and
Yes.
how much they have in common with like our neural networks and the larger scale networks that connect us all. Um, yeah,
Big
it
time.
it feels really right. And then the bloodroot, I don't know if you've seen bloodroot before,
I'm
but
literally going to Google after this to look up a picture.
maybe you can put pictures in with this conversation because
Definitely.
at least when I look at it, it just has like this such intense purity. It's this beautiful white flower and it's actually
Mm,
endangered.
wow.
Um, or I don't know endangered, but people have harvested it, over harvested it for the roots. And so it's best not to take
Mm,
it. But what's so cool about flower essences is you can make them without even picking the flower with just putting a bowl of water underneath.
wow.
So it allows us to like still access this medicine and leave it where it is and respect the earth, which feels like another part of
Higher
this flower.
vibration. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure that everyone's going to be so excited to learn more about you and your work. And I'll definitely link all of your information in the newsletter.
thank you
Um,
so much.
yeah, and this we definitely have to have a second. This is going to 100% be a part two of the fairy and the feminine combination and that whole archetype because I think that's really important to talk about. So
I would love to.
yeah, that'd be lovely. Well, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.